Hi, my name is Jocko Vannekoy. I'm the founder of Winning by Design. Winning by Design is a firm that focuses on go-to-market strategies for B2B companies. We look at marketing, sales, and customer success processes. And today we are looking at part 2 of the non-sequential sales processes. And oh my gosh, I am so excited because I am telling you this is one of the most exciting parts. It holds the keys to the future. Now you may not, at the outcome of this, have very practical application just yet. I'm going to give you lots of practical insights. I just hope to share with you what's going on and where the future leads to us. Where I'm going to start is I'm going to do a quick recap first and foremost. For those of you who haven't watched the first video, I recommend you watch it, but I will do a quick recap for you. Second, next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about action paths. I'm going to then talk about guided action paths. How can we guide things? Then I'm going to talk about the enormous exciting future that we all face and how this is all going to work out. And then finally, if you want to get started, where can you start right now? So let's get started. Let's do a quick recap of that first session and what we spoke about in that first session. What we noticed in that first session is we talked about stages such as we see in a CRM. And often we see that sales processes conform to those stages. We see that these stages are one direction. You often don't move opportunities back from stage 4 back into discovery stage 1. Second that we see is often those stages are not reflective of what really happens in the buying process. What you see here is how we think the customers are buying, but that is not always the case. What is more realistic is this approach. Look at this. Look at it. This is what is a more realistic part of the sales process. This is how things look like. Customers can come in through LinkedIn. They can go in through text message, through Twitter, through email. They can come in through all kinds of ways. And as they go, they not always want to start at the same place. They not always want to start with the discovery call. They sometimes want to start with the demo. They want to know what pricing is. And so how buyers buy does not necessarily match to how we think buyers buy. And as a result, we often push them into our processes. And as you see down here, all the inbounds are all pushed into that same channel. Discovery, discovery, discovery. And then we are completing that process via online meetings, one after another. And I'm telling you, I'm certain that all of you, you must have had enough of online meetings. Am I right? Yes? Okay, settle down, everyone. Okay, so we have all had enough of that. And so what we are seeing is we need for a new kind of approach. Now, what I pointed out is that essentially we are forcing our customers to buy the way we want them to buy. We are forcing them. There is a better way. In order to then look at that better way, we got to look at a concept called graph theory. And that is what I'm going to talk to you about next. I want to share with you what does graph theory really look like. So let's take a look. Come on, graph theory. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a quick search on graph theory. Let's do a search on graph theory. Okay, there we go, graph theory. Now what we see here is what Wikipedia say to us. In mathematics, graph theory is the study of graphs, which are mathematical structures used to model pairwise relationships between objects. That's the reason why in graph theory you see a line between two what they call states. A graph in this context is made up of vertices, also called nodes or points. Well, call them points. Don't call them vertices if they're points. And you're connected by edges. Okay, links or lines. Great. So they're connected. They're dots connected by lines. Why? How about that? Okay. Now, what I want to depict to you is this article written by this lady called Yoshi. And she is giving a great explanation. I encourage you to search for this particular article, A Gentle Introduction to Graph Theory. What you'll see down here is a great visual explanation of what normally looks like a more tree structure. And you're very familiar in this. Often, if you think about organizational charts, often use a tree structure. A graph is different. In particular, there's a particular kind of graph called a directed graph. Excuse me. And what that directed graph refers to is it refers to there being arrows between them. And as you see down here, directed graph, arrows between all those states. That is where I'm going to go to next. So with that taken a look at, let's go back and see how we can apply that. Okay, here we are back at the graph. Now what I'm going to take a look, I'm going to look at the step and say like, hey, we originally thought it was looking like this, right? This is how we thought what we're doing. Well, we're going to represent that by turning that into a graph. It's going to look something more like this. All these ones are now, you see they're all connected with each other, right? And that's the cool part, being connected with each other. You also see that you can come in and out at multiple points in times, and that feels comfortable. That is where I want you to think about. That is what I want you to think about from that first session as we prepare for what is next, okay? Ready? Here we go. That was recap of session 1. Let's take a look at what we can do with this graph and how we can create action paths. What you're going to learn in this particular section is you're going to learn about Euler and Eulerian action paths, which I'm going to create. We're going to learn about the impact of high velocity and the best practice that we've seen, and some of these turn into asynchronous actions. Ready, set, go! Yes, I know. Okay, so Eulerian paths, at first glance, this is very similar to what you may recall from this house. This is like a Eulerian path, and what you see down here is these 5 dots. For those of you who remember this game, you had to draw without the pencil leaving the paper. You had to connect all of them, but you could only go past every line once. Every dashed line you can only pass once. And so this path would look like this, right? We are only gonna go over each path once. Now that is a Eulerian path. And I'm going to take you through a Eulerian path. We're going to take a look some of the research that I did. There we go. And let's take a closer look at Eulerian path. Okay, let's type in Euler path bridge. Okay, that's good. Now what you'll see down here, and this is where Euler came in from. It's a Russian mathematician, and it says that there were bridges in the city of Königsberg, and like what he wanted to do, he wanted to pass all the bridges by only passing them once, and he wanted to figure out what would that route be. So I would, if you want to learn more, it's a great story. But what I love about mathematics is when you look to the nature of it, it tells you what the practical problem was that caused the mathematics behind it. And once you understand how this works, you will always remember it. This guy, Euler, wanted to pass all 7 bridges, and he wanted to do that by only passing them once. Remember that, only once. Okay, let's go back and let's see. Now that explains, we don't have a practical example. That turns into, and we're going to apply that to our graph that we have drawn down here. Now, first things first, we're going to remove all the stages. So let's remove the stages. Yay! Yes, exactly. Remove the stages. Okay, and so now what we're going to do, we're going to only talk about for ease of understanding. I'm going to reduce this from 5 stages to only, most of this entire session, I'm going to talk about these 3 stages. Later on, once the math and everything works out, we can complicate it, but let's start with these 3. What you will see, I'm going to add some inputs and outputs to it, and we're going to make it a directed graph following a Eulerian path, meaning I'm only going to pass each stage once. What I'm going to do is I'm going to number them in order to depict what is going on down here, because what do I see? Well, my first gut reaction, what I see here, is that, like, hey, I'm going to do disco demo. But that often is not the case, and all of you know it. That's not how you do things, okay? What we're going to do, what we often see is following the disco, following the demo, we often go back and do the disco again, but then with a broader group. The first disco may have been, let's say, with the initiator, and the second disco may be with a group that includes the initiator, the champion, the decider, and so on and so forth. After that, we go to session number 3, and we're going to close. But that step there, that disco step, that were 2 different meetings. Those meetings, those discovery calls are not the same. according to what we just looked at Euler, we're not going to cross that bridge twice. We're only going to cross that bridge once. Look how I separate that second discovery call, and I create a separation because even in time, it's very different. Remember, in stages, you would have normally moved back to stage 1 discovery, which is what you were not doing because you felt you were moving ahead, which is the reason why stages are not a correct reflection. But if we make activities the reflection and we look at action paths, then we now see that the separation between the two steps. Even more, we might actually add a full disco demo, which is very common. We now have an idea of the full path and we see that this can take place over time. Now, the way how this often finds itself into meetings is that first could be, like first disco demo could be meeting number 1. Let's call that whatever that meeting is, right? The disco demo meeting. We start with 20 minutes of discovery. We do a little bit of a demonstration, maybe a little bit more of discovery, back and forth. Then what we do is we go to meeting 2, where the additional attendees are now joining. And the additional attendees did not have that first experience. So the experience in the first one was so great that the initiator said, you need to do that with my boss and the team and so on and so forth. So you're doing it in meeting number 2. Let's say that meeting went great. And now what we're doing, we're writing a proposal and we go into the close. Let's say we present a proposal in presentation or meeting number 3. Those are 3 meetings. What I'm going to demonstrate and what we have learned from high velocity sales, that just on this simple process alone, in these few steps that we go through, there is acceleration possible. Now I'm going to demonstrate this on this small scale, but I need you in your own imagination. You need to think if we have dozens of actions, how this would apply, okay? So I'm going to step through and say like, hey, why do we have that meeting here? This was very much the same as meeting number 1. Wouldn't it make sense that after this meeting number 1, why wouldn't I record an asynchronous video of that experience? I wouldn't send them the entire 1-hour demo. No, I would create a short version based on what I've learned and create, instead of an hour video, a 20-minute separate video that my contact, the initiator, could share with the entire team. As that would occur, the time they show up for meeting number 2, we can now progress the meeting significantly further. We may even come to, when would you need this by? This would cost you approximately so much, and let me send you the paperwork that you can sign off. Again, this is a high velocity sale. In enterprise, this would never happen. But you get to understand, you would be able to accelerate a meeting by using that asynchronous meeting. This indicates that we can match a buyer's speed. While some people will still be traveling to the customer, we will already have created the video, created and shared it with them and have gotten team acceptance. And we still may fly there for meeting number 2, but that meeting is now significantly more productive. If I take a closer look, we can even go faster. Because what we come and see is, what if that inbound was not a cold inbound, but was a relatively warm inbound on LinkedIn? People looked me up, looked at what was going on. And this typically happens in Winning by Design. We experience this a lot. The customer comes to us and says like, hey, I've already attended one of your workshops. I already watched your videos. I already know everything. I don't need a full disco demo and start at the beginning. Here's what I would like to, here's what I want from you. What we now see, that is obviously a hot inbound. As that hot inbound enters your sales process, you better not treat that as if that is a standard inbound and say like, oh my gosh, let me talk to you about what we do. And take the client through the entire standard disco demo process that a normal cold inbound would get. This is a very different inbound. When that client asks for a demo, for example, am I going to see a demo today? And you say, no, today we're just going to go through a 30-minute discovery so I can prepare for the demo. You better beware. They are going to be upset with you because they want to see something. That doesn't mean that you cannot do the discovery process. Of course you can. If they want to see a demo, you say, I'd love to do a demo for you. May I ask to make sure that I apply the demo to what your needs are? What are you looking for? What is it that brought you to us? What are the 3 things that stood out in the video and in the workshop that you want to see addressed today? Ask a few of those questions, but then make the demo very applicable. What you'll see is if you do that, that meeting can progress significantly faster. The client themselves have already stepped through the disco demo process. And so entering them into your stage 1 discovery process would delay the process for them. you're not matching their speed. This is a typical example, and the reason why this is so valuable, because whatever I've written down here in blue, that is going on 24/7. This happens non-stop. This is not dependent on whether you are answering email. This is not dependent on whether you're picking up phone calls or scheduling meetings. This happens by itself. This is the reason why we encourage professional sellers to do workshops and to do videos, because those contents, whether they're on YouTube, whether they're on LinkedIn, wherever they're at, they are working 24/7. In this case, this process can even be, like guided by placing ads that direct customers to those assets. What you'll see and what will happen is this machine is becoming a way more automated machine that addresses the customer needs. The customer now can enter your process at a different stage because you've already taken them to the first disco demo online. This creates a new action path. And that is the key that I wanted to draw with you. Okay, what have we learned? We have learned what a Eulerian path is. The bridges only cross something once. And as a result, we separated to do discovery calls. What we learned is that high velocity can be achieved by recording and sharing videos. We are accelerating the client's buying behavior. And typical what we're looking for are asynchronous actions, where you do not have to be operating in the same time and place as they do. There is a lot more about asynchronous, for which I encourage you to watch the other YouTube videos that we have on our YouTube page. Look at the video Asynchronous Selling. It's a very popular video, and it shows you and demonstrates you a variety of different asynchronous actions that any and all of you can take right away. Okay, so let's go look at the guided action paths. Now at this part where I'm gonna share with you is I will help you with understand the Markov chains. I will help you to calculate paths, and I will help you on how it will turn into guided decisions. Okay, let's go in. Now, let's say we're gonna go back to the disco demo. I now need to sit here in the discovery call and I need to make a decision. Am I gonna go with demo or without demo? Am I gonna go close with demo or without demo? That's the thing, right? And so what I'm going to learn and what I'm going to have to work about is like, what is needed down here? For that, we're going to take a look at a Markov chain. Okay, we're back. We're back at our research, but now I'm gonna go open up a new one and I'm gonna launch a new window and we're gonna call that Markov chains. Markov, I can't type, Markov chain. Okay, here we have Markov chain. Now, what I'm going to take a look is I'm gonna take a look at Wikipedia. Yes, I'm a advanced Wikipedia searcher, so I'm gonna take a look. And in particular, what I'm gonna take a look at down here. Now Markov, in this case, think of these E and A, E as in disco, A as in demo. What you'll see is if I'm in disco, 70% of the time, I'm gonna go to demo, and 30% of the time, I'm gonna stay doing a discovery. 0.3 plus 0.1, 30% and 70%, always equal 100%. Similarly, if I look at A, I'm in a demo, 60% of the time I want another demo, and 40% in this example, I want to go back to disco. Again, 0.4 plus 0.6, in other words, 40% plus 60% equals 100%. This indicates that you can hover between these two stages, which is exactly what we're talking about. Markov is yet again another famous Russian, and what these chains are, they are so famous because they allow for a lot of what we see today is what we recognize as the artificial intelligence, where like language detection comes from. And you'll see here at the bottom all kinds of, well, there's Mr. Markov. But what we see is that all kinds of different processes somewhere at the bottom, they say, oh, you have Markov for X and Markov for Y. Markov finds its application in so many ways. Okay, so you're going to find all kinds of ways in where you can apply gambling being one of them, people. Gambling being one of them. So those of you interested in gambling, look at the Markov approach, okay? This is Markov. Let me take you back to how we're going to apply that in real life, okay? Okay, real life. We're now going to apply this to guided action paths. So now I'm going to apply this Markov. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this disco demo down here, okay? Now, in this disco demo, what you will notice is I do not know what to do. Well, what we just learned from Markov, I have two options and those have to add up to 100%. So 10% assume, let's calculate 10% of the time I'm going to go to close and 90% of the time I'm going to go to demo. Let's assume that is the case. Okay. But not always do I go to demo. You remember what he pointed out? He also pointed out that you could go back into your own stage. So instead of 90% going to demo, 60% I'm going to do another disco. This is often what happens. First discovery call, I need another discovery call. This ongoing activity of discovery calls. You add these up, 60, 10, and 30, 100. There you go. Now I'm looking at the demo and 100% of my demos go to close. But that is also not true. Remember, we're going to loop back. So I'm going to say 10% is going to go to close. 90% wants another demo. But hold on. I can not only go to demo, I can also go back to the discovery. So most of these demos are going to go back to discovery. And what you'll see is in this situation, and in particular as you get for larger customers, you're going to hover between this disco demo, which, as we know from Euler, later on will be different paths. Right now they look the same. Later on we're going to separate. Disco demo. So what you'll see down here is these probabilities. Next, what I'm going to do, and again, I made these a wet fingered them. We're going to in a second show you the math behind that and what we can do with that. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply 30% of the time I'm going to stay in close. So I made the proposal, but they want another meeting to discuss terms and so on and so forth. 30% of that is going to go like, no, I actually want to go back to demo. And 40% are going to go back to discovery. So in here, we see 100%, again, 40, 30, 30. This creates a Markov chain. I now come in with discovery and then I can calculate what this is. So let's go do that. Why not? Dude, I got music. Let's go calculate. Hi. Upwards and onwards. On our way. Let's go. Let's go. Now, what I want to point out to you, there's a wonderful, absolutely, I love this website that I encourage you to. It's called Normalized Nerd. I have to tell you, I've watched these videos to catch up what Markov chains do and so on and so forth. A wonderful video, high quality content. Please subscribe to Normalized Nerd channel. Please, it's a great channel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply and create these Markov chains here on an Excel spreadsheet. So here you see these examples are a little bit more realistically. So what you'll see the numbers down here in this case, you see the variety of chances that are occurring. Okay, so what these cross numbers are. Now, what I'm going to do is if I'm in stage 1 disco, what you'll see 45% of the time, 0.45, I'm going to stay in that. 0.5 times of the times, I'm going to go down here and go to stage 2. And 0.05, 5%, I'm going to go to stage 3. If I'm in demo, 60% of the time I'm going to go back to disco. In this example, 30% of the time I'm going to stay, 30, and that leaves 10% of the time, 10% I'm going to go to close, and so on and so forth. There we have that. Now, and this is important, okay? I need to go like, whoop, whoop, whoop. There we go. Okay, this is important. What we see down here is I'm going to create a hidden Markov chain. This is super valuable because I'm going to create two outcomes. One is go dark, and I put everything on it. Lost, gone dark, disqualified, everything fits in there. It's the basket for everything lost, go dark. And win is the basket for everything won. What I'm going to determine that out of that discovery, 95% of the time, I'm going to go dark, and 5% of the time, I'm going to go straight to a win. The demo, 50% of the time is going to go dark, yeah, and 50% are going to go win, and commit, 30% is going to go dark, and 70% is going to go win. What you do down here, many of you, like I did a couple of days ago, I had no idea how to multiply these matrices. All I can tell you is there's a beautiful function that takes care of all that. You don't need to know how to do it anymore. You just type in mmult and you multiply these two. What you'll see down here is that is the multiplication. You do it a couple times, nest it. And what you do after, in my case, I found that after 5 of them, 5, look at the top, x5, 5th time, I get an equilibrium state where I see 29% of the chances are win and 71% go dark, okay? That 29% I plug down here, I insert 120 SQLs, I apply it by ACV, 34 or close to 35 deals are won, and that state in this particular case gives me, based on these matrices, approximately $419,000, okay? Wait, what? What did you just do? Okay. I let you know is that this is not 100% accurate, and those of you who are capable of understanding what I did wrong, please contact me, because I need you. I would love to contract you to do some work for me, okay? But with that all said, this in nature I can now start applying, and I'm gonna take it back to what I'm doing on the right, okay? Let's go! Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm gonna apply these metrics, and I can do something with that. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply this to my Eulerian paths that I've created. Remember, Euler means only pass the point once. So I can only go from A to E to F, or A to C to D, but I cannot go A, C, D, C, E, F. That's, crossing something twice. This is, for example, a one-time through path. So I'm going to go A, E, F once. Cold inbound, no demo. And I'm going to do path 2, warm inbound with demo, whatnot. What the heck? One has everything, the other has nothing. It's cold, no demo, and so on. What I'm showing you is based on these paths, I can indicate now using some of these metrics in order to determine cold and close. So this one down here, I'm going to highlight that. That one, you see? That one, hard, A to E, very hard. So I'm going to give it an extremely low rate, okay? I'm going to say A to C, sorry. I'm going to say like disco, cold probably wants a demo, 30%. But I'm also going to do warm, like I'm going to come into a YouTube channel, want to see a demo. Likely I can get them to commit to the demo. But what is very hard to commit, again, if they just seen a video and I just did a disco, that probably is going to be 20%, okay? I'm using some of these metrics that are determined from my Markov analysis. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to say the demo. How likely is the demo? Well, if I'm going to come in from the demo and from the cold discovery call and I go out to the output of the demo, 70% of that will convert. I'm also taking a look at close. I have two ways how I can come into the close. One, if I've done a disco and I want to close straight. Two, I've seen the demo. Simple. Now, what we notice here is that if I haven't seen a demo, the likelihood of me closing is significantly less. I took that down from 28% to 18%. Some of you may go like, Jocko, if you can close 80% with a demo, that's magnificent, I agree. We should probably make that even lower. But you get the idea. As long as there's some discrepancy between these two numbers, that's all I'm looking for. However, if I am closing without a demo, most likely I have to motivate the buyers with a discount. So voila, I have added an additional discount there in order to motivate the buyer. This is very common. And so what you now see is the variety of numbers. Now, I'm going to plug those in, and I'm going to plug those in a very simple graph. I'm going to go back up. Let's take a look. Left, ready, set, okay, ready. Woo-hoo-hoo. Okay, here we go, and here we see those numbers plugged in. Simply same number, same process, everything lined up down here. I create a table, and what I now see is these four conditions generate a different win rate in percentages. If I now add an ACV of $20,000 and I insert 100 leads, what you're going to see the calculation of what this would mean. Let's take this back and take a look what I can do with this, okay? Now, what I'm going to take a look at is that path here was $28,000. However, if I take another, the warm path, I'm going to see a whopping $156,800. You would go like, of course that is bigger. Of course, because it's warm, okay? So let's compare a little bit more effective comparison. What is the impact of with or without demo? If I don't demonstrate my product properly, and I mean properly, demoing being it like what we call there's words I cannot say, but you can, if you just are talking leaflet, that is not a demo. Okay, a demo is when you listen to the customer, adjust it, ask questions, and do that. That's a proper demo. You see down here why it's so important that demo need to be practiced and executed very well. What you'll see here is the impact of that. On that same 100 leads, that's $100,000 difference. almost 3x of business is generated when you do a proper demo. Now, that is not only the impact of that percentage, you may see it like that's half it. Remember, I also have discount in there, and so there's a compound impact of multiple factors. This is the factor of with demo, without the demo. So when I ask yourself, what do I need to do? Based on creating an understanding that all this is driven based on actions, and that each action has a conversion rate, and that two discovery calls are not the same, and that because of Markov, I can create different states, and these states are all pointing to each other, and they're moving, and I can create sequences. All this, keep that simple. All that comes to the conclusion that we can now give real-time guidance. In this approach, we can now say to a brand new seller, Dutski, do that. If you want to do, I would recommend that you do a demo, because you're going to increase your winning chances from 3.6 to 7.8 success rate. And not only that, you're probably going to hit quota a lot faster, right? That's essentially what you're saying down here. Like, look, do the demo. Do the demo. Yes, thank you. And so in this case, do the demo. And again, I'm not saying do a talking leaflet demo. I'm saying do a proper demo, invest on, like customize where appropriate, but do good stuff for the customer. This is warm to my heart. It's a statement by Alan Turing. You've all seen the movie. You've all heard about him. You know how well he's known. He's by many considered the absolute inventor of the computer. I love this statement. I'll let you read it. Yeah? Good, right? Yeah. Okay. This allows us to create action path that we can guide. Markov, Euler, calculations, mathematics, all these things combined. This mix that we're creating gives us a very promising future. Let me tell you where we can take this. Are you ready for that? Okay. I am going to take you to the exciting future. Okay, what we've learned is what Markov is. We learned about chains and hidden, and how Disco Demo can create a loop, and activities can create loops where they are leading to each other. As a result of those chains, we realize that there's particular states that like that we can start calculating. What is the percentage? Once we know that percentage, we can start saying, guiding paths. We can say like, hey, you should do a demo. You should suggest a customer peer reference. You should do X, Y, Z. These are creating guided decisions. This leads to an exciting future. This exciting future is one that we already experience every day. We already, as consumers, we already see the Amazon recommendation. As consumers, we already get, like that when I'm on Instagram that I see, oh my gosh, they really know accurately what I love to buy nowadays. Thank God that buying process is not fully single-click automated like Amazon, because I would be buying a lot more on Instagram. They exactly know my sweaters. They exactly know my gadgets. They're pretty good on point. So if that happens in B2C, why can we not do that on B2B? We can, and it is happening. Now, what I want to give you is I want to give an example of how this applies. I want to give you a visual presentation of this. This is the power of graphing, where we start creating graphs. You may learn this because graphs was what LinkedIn early on created. You had this graph. In those first couple of years, LinkedIn would give you a graph. When you still had 400, 500 nodes, it was still visible. Nowadays, many of you have many more nodes. It's like, it doesn't matter anymore. It just becomes one ball of like red and green. We're going to show you the power of graphing, and I'm hopefully to give you a simple thought about how to embrace the artificial intelligence in your role in sales and how important this is. I'm going to go back to the disco demo mode. We've been here before. We've seen it. Let's go back. What I'm now doing is I'm adding one stage in this case, right? So you see demo, propose, and close. And all the thing that I want to point out to you is like I'm adding one specific action, and look how it adds 3 different paths. Those 3 different paths, I now need to know. Do I need to do demo? Do I need to propose? Or do I need to go straight for the close? Close meaning sign the paperwork here. Propose meaning create a proposal. That is what I can give guidance on, right? We earlier saw this real-time guidance. Now, what I notice, however, is that if I go to the demo, that is not straight demo. I need to perform certain actions, We call those micro actions. And those micro actions may be a follow-up email, maybe a summary, and so on and so forth. I also may recommend an alternative path. Instead of a demo, we may say visit a customer. Would you like to talk to a customer? Instead of a demo. What we can see is these actions are connected through these micro actions. And these micro actions are emails and phone calls and text messages and things you send them, research you perform for them. These micro actions are so important because they seem like they're not really matter, but they make all the difference. This is why many of you know what is the profession of sales. So for example, for a demo, you may have the call before the call. You call your champion and say like, hey, I noticed that you invited all these people. Can you help me understand what do they want? You can perform research of those people. Post the call, you can analyze what their needs were, and you can create an asynchronous follow-up video. Don't just send them the 60-minute recording of the call, but instead add more info to it. Again, go watch that if you have an opportunity. I would encourage you to watch that asynchronous video, how much you can do with that. These are all micro actions. These are just a few micro actions. What we will notice is that these micro actions can create alternative paths. Each of these micro actions need to decide. So for example, this real-time advice could say, hey, if you go and visit the customer, it is even better than a demo because a customer will not only perform the demo, but it will be in context of the client. And so we may say plus 3% for doing a demo, plus 5% this point if you go visit the customer. What we see is we can also identify potential shortcuts. In this case, your demo and you're clicking that you want to do a month-end offer. It says like, look, you can make a month-end offer, but you got to take these micro actions. Before you make a month-end offer, first ask the customer, if I make you an offer, would you be willing and would you be able to make a decision? If the customer is unable to make a decision by month end, don't even offer them. No need. Because they're gonna look at the new price and they're gonna use that as a new price. This is, for example, a micro action. Make sure before you make the client a discount month end offer that you verify if the offer is to their liking. Are they able to make that decision? Are they able to use that budget? Alternatively, I may use an asynchronous video and shortcut that entire demo process. Again, if I go acceleration, I just want you to think, this will apply to enterprise. I'm going to get there. I just want you to think, if this only already applies to these 3 steps that we're discussing, oh my gosh, the world will open up. Now look what I'm doing next. We know that an SMB on average has 20 to 50 micro actions alone. It's about 5-6 stages that you know as stages are essentially actions, but there's a total of 20 to 50 micro actions. Obviously, if the deal size and the velocity goes up, it is closer to 20. But in many cases, the follow-up email and so on and so forth, there's a whole bunch of actions. And this is what so many of you feel every day in sales. The stages are not a correct reflection of all the things you are doing. If I go up and I start seeing more stages, more actions, all the things that are needed, a mid-market 50 to 100 actions, enterprise over 100 actions, and look at all the key activities. We now have an RFP, stakeholder meeting, security checks, legal qualification, proof of concept, multiple discovery calls, and so on and so forth. It becomes a gigantic, activity. This may often take place over 6 to 18 months. And those of you who've been in enterprise sales, look, this is a lot more reflective than just, looking at 5 stages. 5 stages are creating an abstract level that may be fine to get a general idea where things are at, but it ain't fine to tell you what best to do next. These abstract layer stages are enforced by methodologies that by themselves lack the depth of the action that is needed in today's sales. Because again, your buyer may come in at any point in time. They may come in and they ask for an RFP straight away. You've never seen them. They may come in for a disco call. They may want a demo, and so on and so forth. They can come in. And so too, you may accelerate the legal process or the security process. If you're worried that you can't meet their legal requirements before you go into an RFP mode, you may accelerate that. All this indicates there is non-sequential activities going on all the time. What we can learn through this, we can learn and apply the best practices from sales experts. So many of you have asked me over the years that you're troubled with a proof of concept because it takes often 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and that you say, Jocko, what is the best way to circumvent the proof of concept? Well, there's two options there. One, don't circumvent it, just become the absolute best ever in, for example, doing a proof of concept. Dedicate an entire team to it. Write the best proof of concepts. That's one. The other part is maybe bring in a peer review. And in the past, what we use today, instead of a proof of concept, we would offer the client a complete paid trip. In the days that travel was still widely approved, we would trip them to the customer and have a complete customer visit. There are ways around it. Often they are not as straightforward. And therefore I say, folks, embrace being good at proof of concept. If that's your business, then that's your business. What you'll see that these graphs allow us to do, if we want to get, in this case, from point A to point B, it will identify different paths. Each of these paths can be guided from all the way front to finish. They can be all through here. Look at that. At every different action, imagine that you're in a discovery call and that you get that guidance. Hey, make sure that you check. If you're going to make an offer, make sure you ask for this. Just checklists. This can be done in real time. We don't have to be realistic, although the original information will be based on the knowledge gathered by hundreds of thousands, millions of sellers who have gathered all this knowledge. And now we need to pass this onward. Well, to do this, delivering by a book takes too long to write, takes too long to read. Why not get this real time? What is happening in this market right now? What is the trend on demos? What is the trend on discovery calls? What is the trend on client visits, on meetings, setting up meetings with clients? In real time. And basing it on live data. So when a warm inbound comes in, that we know, here's the steps. This is live data in the current economic situation, in the current market. This is the right path to take. Think of that as not only that can be applied and treat every customer the same, but think that these graphs will automatically start adjusting themselves to what happens in high tech and say, here's the high tech approach, or here's what an SMB in the pharma world would look like, how they are buying. Here's what a cultural graph, for example, what Brazil does. In Brazil, they do like warm inbounds and they do like referrals and so on and so forth. This graphing paves the way for a way more scientific approach, where the same way that B2C experience it and where the recommendations are made, we now see the recommendations are made to sellers. Now you may think to yourself, Jocko, I love what I do. I love it. I'm an artist. I hear you. I love it too. But we got to pass this on. We got to pass these best practices on. And we as human beings, we're learning too slow real time. Look, think of it this way. It was not too long ago that, when I was playing, in this case, on a game station, dancing, you started to mimic the moves that they were making. Many of you played, and some of you may still play Guitar Hero. We all loved it. This was the same thing. They just taught you how to do it. As DJs nowadays, you simply use the in this case, it's DJ Pro. You can say, match the beats per minute, and they automatically match the beats per minute. Think about it in the past, where you had to turn the knob to get the beats per minute right before you faded one and brought in the other. This is now all happening automatically. It automatically picks up the beats. I can automatically loop things. It's guided already. Click on it, it will find the 8th count and start looping it. Think of that as you drive a car. It's already advising you that something is in your blind spot. And I'm certain that all of you have seen, when that Waze checks your calendar once you have the integration and tells you, look, I know you're dropping your daughter off at horseback riding. Shouldn't you be leaving? Because I think it's time to leave. You already get that guidance in life. Doctors are getting that license, they are getting that guidance. What is the recommended actions? And as we see down here, we have these soon-to-be glasses. They're going to be guided live during an operation on what to take. Does this mean that they don't love operating? Of course. We still need the sales professional. We still need you. We still do. You still need to make these calls, but you're going to have a lot more accurate information at your fingertips. Many of you are already used to this, like as we are in the athletic world. I myself, my watch tells me how much hours I need to rest. They're already guiding me what I need to do, when I need to run, what my rest heart rate is, and so on and so forth. It can guide me through interval training and whatnot. Same for you. So many of you are on the Pelotons or on the mirrors. You're following guidance too. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be. Science, as Carl Sagan said, is simply a way of thinking. It's simply a looking at it, and it's going to guide us, and it's going to make us better sales professionals who are assisting customers in a better way. And as a result, we're going to have more accurate forecasting. It's going to be done automatically. It's going to make our revenue more reliable as a company. It's going to make your pay more reliable. You're going to be able to leverage the best practices real time from hundreds of thousands of sellers. And often, we can draw on those best practices from those things that take place in your market. And what we're learning from and what we're using is science. This to me is such an exciting future. This to me is where we need to start to think about what science can do to all of us in sales. Where do we start? Well, before I go there, what did we learn right now? We learned about the power of graphing. We learned about, like to embrace AI, the guidance, and your role. Don't change, just add to it. Become guided, become technology aided. It's perfectly fine. We do it everywhere else. This sales is going to be the same thing. And complex enterprise sales is going to be extremely useful because of the huge amount of actions that you have to take. High velocity sale, extremely useful because of the high speed that you have to take and the limited, the penalty for failure if you don't respond quick enough. Where do you start? Many of you will call from this and say, look, this is the future. Where do I start? I encourage you to do the thing. Start here, right here. Pick one moment that matters most to your customer. Pick that moment. Start here. Whatever that is that matters for your customer. For many, it may be the demo. For some, it may be the discovery. For others, it may be the proposal. A great value proposal, for example. Whatever that is, figure out what in your belief is the most important thing you do with your customers that is important to your customer. Right? Not important to you. What is the most important thing to them? Okay? We call it the moment that matters. When you start looking, and let's say that this is a demo, define what are the two outcomes of that. 2-3 outcomes. Demo, in this case, proposal, disco, whatever that is. Then define the micro actions that lead to that. Understanding that not every micro action results in a proposal or disco. You need to change that guidance, right? You need to know, hey, if the customer came in on a different action, we need to take a different action on the output. There's micro actions that led up to that demo. Also identify them. I need to do this, need to do that. Write down these micro actions. For example, referred by a friend, you probably need to check with your friend first before you jump straight into the call. You probably want your friend to, to give you an introduction, what the heck is going on. And you probably want to send that person insights before the demo. That could be good 3 action items, micro actions that would lead you before you start your setup of your demo process. Or attend a workshop, total different action items, micro actions. But define them, write them out. Simple. That's where you start. That's as simple as it is. So where do you start? I believe you start right there. Pick that one moment. Folks, that is what I tell you. Let science just start doing that. But if you cannot define what those micro actions are, we can never put it into a scientific system. So start with defining what it is. And then start writing down what those micro actions are. What leads up to it? Only on one action. All you need. Make that one moment count. That's all I ask. Just write it down on paper with pencil. Talking about science. There. Yes. I know. Okay, so that is where I would like you to start. With that, I hope to have given you an exciting view on what sales can be about and how science can start involved and how we can use some of these basic scientific principles, whether they're from Euler or Markov or whatever it is, we can apply them. We can trust that we can later on, once you have defined those actions, we can turn them into states and we can create the guidance around it. Science will take care of itself. I have to say, It was a longer session with lots of thought in it. I hope it has provoked lots of thoughts inside of you. This is not a way that I'm saying like, oh my gosh, it's a conviction. No, this is just to open up your mind, see the things we can. Look me up on LinkedIn, like find me on Twitter as well and on YouTube. I also frequent House Party where I share my best practices as well, the things I learned from you. Looking forward to be, to help you with many of those other parts. Look up Winning by Design. We offer the full-fledged services. If you like this video, please hit subscribe. Please give a like if you like the content and how we're presenting it. With that said, I want to thank you all. Thank you for having me. I have a few more small messages behind this, but thank you so much. See you all out there. Bye-bye.